when you start to realize the potential and that you've been living inside of a box and that your mind has been controlling you and you should be controlling your mind instead, um, the sky's the limit. You know, that you can love yourself and you can love other people and it doesn't have to hurt.
You're listening to Guards Down. This is Greg Washington.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Guards Down. I have with me today Kimesha Coleman. Kamisha, how are you doing?
Hey Greg, I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
I cannot complain. I can't complain. Look, Kamisha is an international motivational speaker and a survivor from domestic violence and teen violence. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct.
All right. Well, look, tell us some more about yourself.
Like you said, I am a motivational speaker and also a survivor of domestic violence and teen dating violence, as well as child molestation. And because of those experiences, that is what led me into the work that I do now as a self-esteem coach and also as an author, writing and talking about my own story and experiences so I can therefore inspire and motivate others who may be dealing with similar situations to find healing and to really start to live out their life.
Mm-hmm. So the first thing that comes to mind is that, you know, there is nothing wasted in a transformed life. So tell me, how has it been going down this path for you?
It has been something that I couldn't articulate. I couldn't write it down and say, oh, I want to experience this. It has been something that was painful. It's been something that's been challenging, exciting, fulfilling, and satisfying all at the same time. So just going through and really looking back at, you know, the points of domestic violence and having low self-esteem and dealing with depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts, and looking at that story and really becoming aware of who I am and what brought me to this point. You know, again, looking at the story, the details can be painful, it can be scary, but at the same time, it's exciting to know what I can become because of this story. So
there we go.
Here I am.
Hear that? Well, you definitely make me feel that it's all about the journey and not necessarily the end destination. So as long as you are finding fulfillment and inspiration along the way, I mean, I think that's the biggest part, right? Exactly.
And it's a lot of times we don't want to move forward because we're so stuck at looking at the pain and what we're afraid of. You know, we don't go to the other side of the story to actually see the light, because it's light on the other side of the darkness. But we have to go through that tunnel of darkness to get to the other side. And that's facing those traumas, those experiences that didn't make us feel good about ourselves or our life. So, and that's what I coach and teach people about. You know, just because you have experienced domestic violence, somebody has told you what you can't be and what you can't do and who you are not. It's not the law. It's not, you know, they don't have authority over your life, but it's been stuck in our minds that, oh, I can't do this. I don't speak well. I don't feel pretty enough to get on TV or whatever. So you stay stuck in this box, living up to or sometimes down to their standard of living, because of fear of trying something new, fear of stepping outside the box, fear of facing that trauma, you know, head on, you know.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'm glad you say that, because that brings me to, you know, the first question. When you're having to face that fear and trauma and grief head on, when you're having to walk down that road, growing up, did your family or role models or the people around you teach you how to deal with trauma and grief?
Absolutely no. No. Maybe in an indirect way of, partying and drinking, but there was no teaching of how to deal with loss, trauma, negative emotion. No, I didn't get that type of teaching.
Okay. Do you feel there are cultural differences when it comes to how people cope?
Yes and no. I would say that one of the main, there are two reasons, and this can be culturally or status or class. If you don't have the awareness or the knowledge that help is available, that there are resources, that's number one. And number two is the money, because sometimes the free resources for like counseling or psychotherapy or coaches, you may not have the funds to get that assistance. But again, if you don't even know that help is available, why would you even look for it? You don't even know that, this can be fixed, because everybody in the family is struggling with PTSD or mental illness or addiction. So it's your norm. So, and especially in the African and American community, this is your norm to feel hopeless, to feel like you don't have control over your life.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. No, when you say that, it makes me think about, when you talk about teaching and what's being passed on from generation to generation, to teach your kids how to deal with trauma and grief is to, quote unquote, help set them up for success. For our culture, when you put it that way, we were taught survival.
Right. Right.
So
right.
I definitely, agree with you, on that front. So we want to talk about your trauma and the experiences that you went through and how you grew and developed over time. But we also want to talk about the collateral damage behind it.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Like I said, I was molested as a child, and I wasn't molested by a stranger or the next door neighbor or some random family member. I was molested by my favorite uncle. And I say favorite, this is someone who I adored and cared for, so it has a different meaning to me than, just being traumatized by a stranger or, whatever. So this violation, because when you're molested, you're being violated. This person is breaking your boundaries, right? And this is like your first relationship. And a lot of people don't realize that sex was created to create this bond between husband and wife. So you imagine this person violating you, creating this bond with you that you will carry with you all throughout life. Your first relationship, sexual relationship, was a violation of self. So now you go into other relationships thinking, I don't have any boundaries. I don't have any say so if I want to have sex or not. Why? Because the standard has been set. Again, there wasn't any counseling. There wasn't any empathy towards me. My parents didn't come to me and say, oh, it wasn't your fault, or, oh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. There was no counseling. So in my child's mind, I'm thinking something must be wrong with me. Again, it doesn't go away because the dates on the calendar changes. You are still that same child going into teenage relationships, going into adult relationships, carrying that same low self-esteem, that same sense of unworthiness, that same sense of something is wrong with me. People don't love me. People are mistreating me. I must be doing something wrong mentality because of that first violation. and it wasn't processed, it wasn't addressed. And so now you end up with a cycle. So that's the damage. You're in a cycle of trauma, you're in a cycle of abuse, you're in a cycle of feeling unworthy. So even if you were approached by somebody who was going to love you the right way, you don't even know how to handle that. You're used to the people mistreating you, abusing you, punching you, embarrassing you. So the damage is long term, and it doesn't go away because you change relationships. You can change your job. You can change your hair. You can put on the longest eyelashes they got at the beauty supply. But if you don't fix that inside, the story remains the same. It's just going to be with a different person.
Mm-hmm. I got you. So when you talk about, because I mean, you bring up a very valid point. When you talk about like the first violation and how that kind of sets you down this path of low self-esteem and, you know, a whole bunch of mixed feelings and emotions, does that then lead into how you handle and deal with the second and the third and the fourth violation?
Yes, it does. Again, so now I was in my teens and met a guy who treated me nice at first, just like the uncle did. The uncle was bringing me gifts, giving me money, being nice to me before he violated me. So now I go into this teen relationship who is buying me gifts and treating me nice, and then the relationship starts to turn violent, you know, where I've been strangled to sleep. I'm being electrocuted with power cords and pistol whip. I'm only 14 years old. Why go tell mom and dad now? Because when I was young and nothing happened, so why tell them what's going on with this other relationship, right?
Yeah.
So you accept it until you decide to do something, leave the relationship. But again, just because you leave the relationship, the trauma inside your mind is still going on. The experiences, yeah.
Man, that to go through that at such a young age, that's scary. I mean, you know, for me having daughters and to have, you know, like my mom and sisters, and just to know like that there are just some bad, fucked up people out there, you know, that would do this.
Yeah.
You know, it just makes you think like, what do I need to do to prepare them and how to deal with this? So I want to ask you, what were some tools and techniques you used to cope, you know, with your trauma and grief? Let's start with unhealthy and then we'll go to healthy.
Yeah, the unhealthy was I would drink because I couldn't sleep because the mind is busy. I would sleep and I took Tylenol PM. The next morning to go to work, I had to get, you know, doped up on caffeine so I can stay awake and be alert. So it was a cycle of up and down, and very unhealthy. And the drinking was more and more and more because I'm trying to push down and suppress these feelings because I don't know what it is. Why is this stuff, you know, coming up? So the drinking is to suppress the feelings, the bad incidents, the bad situations and experiences. And to the point to where I was drinking so much, I remember falling asleep at the Whataburger drive-through line with my foot on the brake. And that scared me so bad. And I said, okay, if you don't stop, because you always get a warning, if you don't stop, something bad is gonna happen. So, and I didn't want to hurt anybody. I was already hurting. I didn't want to hurt anybody else or even kill myself because I'm drinking so much. So that was like my wake up call. Like, okay, Kamisha, we got to get a hold of this. And I just started I didn't know what to do, really. I didn't know what to do going into the healthy things. Been in church all my life. the people that I was kind of venting to and kind of, telling them bits and pieces of my story at that time, trying to get some answers, they couldn't give me answers. So I went to God and I prayed. When I say I prayed and I prayed, because I'm like, it's something wrong. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew something was wrong with me. And that was the first step of going into the healthy, seeing that something is wrong. In the alcohol, the best Hennessy, Patron, Jack and Coke, you can buy it all. You can get the best weed, you have the best job. Nothing could get rid of that feeling. So I began to pray. I began to research about relationships, abuse, and love. Again, awareness. What is going on with me? I'm seeking answers, right? And I eventually started going to counseling. Not all counselors are different. And I remember having a conversation about shopping, because shopping would be like one of my highlights of the day. I would go shopping on my lunch breaks, right? It was like the best time of the day. But I was buying things. Sometimes I wouldn't even wear them. I didn't even like them. I probably bought them just because they were on sale. And he asked me, why was I buying these things? And it was because to get a sense of control. There was no control. I just kind of went with the flow of things, very submissive and passive. So I was seeking some form of control. Again, going back to that first violation, I was wanting control, and this was my time of control. I can go and buy me stuff, right? So it's about sitting down, talking with people, getting the answers about self, what is going on with me? This is the healthy part, and not trying to drown it out with alcohol and whatever type of other drug or whatever thing or person, because some people jump relationships to keep their mind busy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, just to kind of recap, you talked about the unhealthy was the ups and downs of getting drunk to numb yourself and then having to take caffeine to like wake up and function. And that got to a point of drinking where you were scared to hurt someone else, so you wanted to make a change.
Yeah.
And then you turned to religion. You sought counseling and retail therapy. Right. And then the first part that you talked about was the research, understanding what you were going through and dealing with.
Yeah. To really get a handle on my emotions, we're not taught about emotions as a child. Even watching TV would trigger me. It would do something to make me feel a certain type of way. And even now I still have to watch, what am I entertaining myself with? Because your body is going to send back a signal of stress or de-stress, panic, anxiety, because you're watching this movie that's reminding you of something that happened in the past. So that says maybe we shouldn't be watching this. Maybe we should watch something more funnier or, not as so intense. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Okay. So for a person that is dealing with trauma and grief, for you, what were some feelings, thoughts, and actions that, that let you knew that you were dealing with it?
The sadness. I remember a few years ago, because we don't grieve everything at one time. You grieve in periods, what you allow yourself to grieve. The sooner the better. But it was not until the last 3 years ago that I was able to actually grieve my uncle violated me. And the feeling was sadness. It was disappointment. I was so disappointed in him because, again, this is someone that I looked up to and who I admired. Um, it was a feeling of kind of disgust of the whole situation. However, if you are in a point of, like I said, if you're self-medicating to numb those feelings, that you might not be as aware of what's going on with you. But, at this point I had, stopped drinking to fall asleep. I can have a drink socially, but not to medicate myself or calm myself or numb myself down. So I was more aware and in touch with my feelings. How am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling sad? Something happened that I didn't like. And this was part of my grieving experience, journaling those thoughts, getting it up and out, was part of my grieving experience. I didn't want to hold it in. I didn't want to pretend like I'm not hurting. I didn't want to seem like I'm perfect and nothing bothers me, because there was something wanting to come up and out. So that's a part of the grieving process, allowing that emotion to come up and out, and then to forgive the abuser or the person that hurt you, and also to forgive myself, because it was a feeling of betrayal, self-betrayal, maybe for not speaking up soon enough, not, whatever. It could be, we put a lot of blame, self-blame on ourselves. But forgiveness was very important, the feeling of letting go. I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to forget, because there are some great lessons in that. But I'm going to let go of the hurt. It had been with me since I was probably 5-7 years old. So 30 something years, I've been holding on to something that's not serving me. It's not benefiting me. So deciding to let go.
Yeah. And so when you look at all of this, and I really appreciate you for just like sharing and opening up, and letting us into your world and what you had to experience. You started out talking about what you had to do for yourself, and that was leading into like the next question, because I wanted to get into the support aspect of it. So what did you do to help yourself? And one of the big things that you said was journaling and wanting to feel and go through the grieving process and forgiving the other person. Are there anything else that that you had to do to help yourself?
Honesty. You have to be honest with yourself, and a lot of times we're not honest. I think you brought up a good point about being in survival mode, right? So we can create a belief that will help us to survive while we are children or while we're in distress, right? Mentally survive. I'm going to create this story in my mind to help me get through this situation. So, and we can carry that same belief into our adulthood, but it's not going to help us create a healthy relationship that we want, because we're still stuck in survival mode, meaning that we're not going to open up. We're not going to choose healthy people, right? We're going to choose people that are what we know, what's familiar, which is the toxic, abusive people. Being honest with myself and saying, this person does not have the capacity to love me. This person doesn't have the love inside of them to give me what I want and what I need. right? Because I'm choosing relationships that are toxic. I'm choosing friends who are toxic, being honest with self and saying this person is full of shit, pretty much, to that level. Stop lying to yourself. Be honest with self. And same thing if you're on a job and that job is below your standard of means, or you can't move up, you can't learn, you can't grow. But sometimes we stay in that job just because it delivers a paycheck, or it's comfortable, or it's easy. But at the same time, you're feeling sad, you're not feeling challenged, you're not, the boss is maybe toxic or whatever, but you stay. It's the same situation. You're putting yourself in situations where you're unhappy, you're being mistreated, you're being undervalued. It's the same thing. So I think honesty, awareness is key. You have to be honest, and then taking some steps to make the change. I've been lying to myself all this time.
So honesty and take action.
Yeah.
What about from the outside looking in? What can someone on the outside do to support you? Given your situation, what kind of support would you have wanted to have if you didn't actually get it?
I would want to have a really good friend that saw me, healed and full of life. Not the friend that's looking at all my damaged pieces and pointing out all my flaws, but a friend that says, Kamisha, I got you. A friend who, when I make a mistake, it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. A friend that says, hey, there's a better way of doing things. Because sometimes we are delivered a message and it's said or stated in a way that it can't even be received, because it's so harsh and critical. Is, I told you so. Didn't I tell you? I can't even receive that. That's not what I need. So being that friend that is understanding, that is still going to hold you accountable for what you're choosing, is very important. That's what I needed. I needed somebody to hold me accountable that was understanding, and that say, let's do something different. So this ain't it. This ain't it.
I know that's right. Okay. So having a friend that sees the best in you and then that is willing to hold you accountable to have a better life, I definitely think that is important. Throughout all of this, what's been the toughest part of your journey?
The toughest part is learning to love yourself when nobody else has shown you love. Right. So how do you do that? How do I create love for myself when I've been so mistreated and all these bad experiences? How do I love me? So I don't know if you are into religion. I'm not into religion. I believe in God. I do have faith, and it was through that relationship that says this is what love is. You don't have to earn love. You don't have to over-sacrifice. You don't have to be something you're not. Because love is just love. It doesn't require you to, jump through hoops and stand on one leg and, cook dinner while you're folding clothes all at the same time. Love is just love. It's just love. It's just love. So love was just one of the things, self-love, and that's looking at, am I putting myself in situations that are dangerous or unhealthy? That's self-love. Am I denying myself of what I need at this point in time? That's self-love, right? Am I giving myself healthy things like food and water? What things am I putting inside of myself? That is self-love, and we don't think of it like that. We think I don't know, the house and the car, of course you want something nice, but it's the things in the way we treat ourselves and how we love ourselves that really matters.
I agree with that. I like how you kind of laid out that self-love, because I often equate self-discipline to self-love. Mm-hmm. Because when you do those things that are required to make you better, even though you might not want to, that's you showing love to yourself. So
that's right.
I appreciate you saying that, girl. Look, hey, look. That's one thing to put in the toolkit if y'all out there listening.
Yep.
That's a good one. Okay, let's talk about making amends. So when you're hurt, when you're dealing with trauma and grief, hurt people. And so how do you make amends with the folks you hurt?
For myself, I did make a few phone calls and apologize to people how I treated them, even if they were abusive or whatever, because I wanted to let go. I wanted them to know that they were not just you're not a monster, and I did some things myself that were not, the best. I didn't treat you the best or whatever. And let it go. There's nothing to prove but to be better, be a better version of yourself. So making amends is not always about going back and trying to prove that you are different, that you are better, but to actually be better, to be a better person, to make better choices and decisions, have better relationships, have a better life. Because I have children, right? So I can only give to them what I have. If I don't have love for myself, I'm giving out some toxic stuff, right? So I had to learn how to love. How do I let them know that they are being loved and that no one has the right to touch you or speak to you any type of way. So, and that's my way of making amends, making it better, making our lives better.
Yeah. Okay. So you make me think about internally having a lot to deal with, and people that get stuck in the process of dealing with their trauma and grief and trying to overcome it. Once you're stuck and you have other risk factors that, will likely increase the chance of suicide. And so I kind of wanted to talk about suicide for a second, because I woke up this morning and what came to mind was the amount of effort a person has to take to even attempt suicide. To pull that trigger and to walk off the ledge, to pop a bunch of pills, right? To do like all of that self-destruction. And so, it came to mind that like, if you can have that much effort to do something that destructive, you can have that much effort to do something positive to change your life as well. Right. So, for you, what kept you going when you wanted to give up?
It was definitely my children at first. You know, if I had somebody probably reliable or that I trusted, I probably would have committed suicide. But because I loved my children so much and I couldn't leave them, I attempted suicide when I was around 17 years old. So sitting there with the bottle of pills, yeah. And even every now and then the thoughts will come up. But it's like, why? Why would I want to do that? Look what I built. Suicide is about focusing on all the bad things, and you're stuck. But you're stuck looking at look at all the bad stuff that's happened. Look at all the bad stuff that I've done. And when you stop looking at all the bad and turn the other way and look at all the beautiful things on this side, why would you want to leave that? And I actually learned this in counseling. I was stuck looking at all the bad stuff. And he just said, turn the other way. Now look at all this over here. All the love, all the beautiful things, all the flowers, all the happy times. It's right here. We just need to turn the other way. Stop looking here. But we're like zombies. We're just stuck. We're fascinated with all the negative. Forget that stuff.
Indeed. I like I like how you said that. You just gotta, like you said, it literally is, you hone in on the negative, and you just gotta shift your focus and perspective to what you do have, the positive stuff. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. And so for your destructive behaviors, what caused you to correct them?
Well, number one, like I said, I was falling asleep drunk in the drive-through. That's not a good accolade you want to have on your resume. So, it was not good. It was embarrassing. All the clubbing. You think about all the money that I've spent trying to cover up and suppress those emotions. So there was it's a lot that goes into the trauma of what am I running from? Pretty much, what am I hiding from? The clubbing, the men, the jobs, all the job jumping, all the address changing. You're running from something. Slow down. Let's look at this. I was tired. Mm-hmm. I was tired. I was at the point to where it felt like I was having a nervous breakdown. Like, what is this? Like, what is wrong with me? And that was a sign that says something needs to change. You can't live like this forever. Yeah. That was a sign, So,
yeah.
If I go ahead.
So when you talk about change, do you think you have to wait until you're upon your darkest hour, until you hit rock bottom to make a change?
Of course not. But sometimes we don't change until we hit rock bottom, until it's just so heavy, but we don't have to wait. Mm-hmm. But if you're so busy, you're so full of distractions and you're in chaos, and the whispers are coming, the signs are coming, but you're ignoring that, and you're just going and you're going and you're working and you're working and you're doing your thing, and finally it's like, oh my, it's just like your head is about to explode. You can't even get drunk now. You can't. I mean, the alcohol is like, you got to take it up a notch. And so it's like, no, we're not doing it. So something needs to change. This is too much.
Yeah. No, I hear a lot of people kind of say it after the fact, once they've hit rock bottom or, or upon their darkest hour, then they look back and say, well, shit, I didn't really have to get there. I could have made that change. Mm-hmm. So at what point would you tell someone that might be the little antenna going off that says,
When I look back again, and if you find yourself in a similar situation, going through the exact same thing. But again, you have to be conscious. You have to be aware of what's going on. That's probably a sign. So say, for instance, if it's a relationship, you just got married or whatever, and it's abusive, it's toxic, and you got to jump and find a new place and hide and change all your addresses and right. Okay, we done that one time. Now, here you are 5 years later and you're doing the exact same thing, but it's with a different person. It's the exact same thing. Exact same scenario. Nothing's changed. You're the common denominator. That may be the clue that's saying, okay, I need to change some things. I need to look at myself because I'm doing something wrong or I'm making a decision that is taking me right back to the same point. It's taking me right back. And that's the sign. There's a lesson there that you did not learn. You did not pay attention. So it's taking you right back. It's taking you right back.
Mm-hmm. Listen to it, right? You
can go through it 2 times or you go through it 20 times. So it's your choice, but the sign is there.
Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about getting help, behavioral, mental health professional, did your counselor's race, gender, or background make a difference?
I would say no. My first 2 counselors were male counselors. And every counselor is different. They taught me something different about myself and my experiences. And then my third one, she was female. And the first 2 were Black, African-American males. And the lady, I don't know, she was Italian. But yeah. I just really believe that it depends on the counselor and their skill set.
Okay.
This is my opinion.
No.
But I never looked at it. But the first 2 were African American. So.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And the only reason I asked the question is because I'm looking at this from a cultural sensitive standpoint. If you have a counselor or a mental health professional that looks like you or been through the same experience you've been through, will the connection be a lot deeper, which allow for the treatment to be more effective? Mm. And in some cases, I've heard people say yes. In other cases, when it was like this big fire that just needed to be put out, people didn't care who it was. They just needed to talk.
Yeah, right. Like, I ain't got time to talk about this, black, white. I don't care. Just help. I need help.
Indeed. And I know, we laugh about it now, just looking back at it. But that is the God honest truth. When you need help, it doesn't matter who that person is.
Yeah.
You just need help. But if you can talk to someone, whoever you feel comfortable with, you do have a preference and a choice in doing that. And so for anyone out there, that's listening, you have a choice. But if you need help, like it honestly doesn't matter who it is, just as long as someone is there and willing to be able to help you.
Well, yes. Well, then again, when I think about it, all help ain't good help. So
that's true too. I've also heard that as well. Speak on it.
Because even when you're looking through your Google or whatever, you can get a sense or a feel about that person, especially if you get the opportunity to book that appointment online. Because I've spoken to some people online over the phone. I'm like, oh no, they sound like they need help. Let me go to the next one. So, it was just so dry and no, that's not what I'm looking for. So it does matter because we're talking about energy, we're talking about motivation. It plays a big part because there are a lot of people who go to counseling for years and never changed. So now I can't say if race has anything to do with that, but again, it depends on the counselor and their knowledge of what you're going through.
Yeah. Okay. Well, looking back on everything, what advice would you give your younger self?
What advice would I give my younger self? Is that you're good enough. You're good enough.
I like that. That allows you to, like, and the way you said it, once you internalize it, it makes that step into the right direction so much easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, so like once you believe it and you can hear it, and, you know, it reminds me of, and I always, you know, I tell my daughters, I teach them, like, you should be able to look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you more than you tell someone else.
That's right. That's right.
And so when you say that, that's what, you know, what came to mind and came to heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Do you see your growth?
Oh, most definitely. Oh my God. I was just shy, withdrawn. I was afraid of people. I wouldn't talk. You know, low self-esteem. I didn't know who I was. Wouldn't, you know, take any type of chance, like doing the interviews and writing a book. Who does that? Nobody I know does that. But with box, and that your mind has been controlling you, and you should be controlling your mind instead. The sky's the limit. You know, that you can love yourself and you can love other people, and it doesn't have to hurt. You know, when you talk about growth, and you get to choose how you see the world. You know, your perception is you get to choose that.
I like that. You get to choose how you see the world. Mm-hmm. I think that is very, very strong and very powerful. So we're getting ready to close, and I just want people to be able to reach you. So tell us, you know, some of the efforts you're doing. How can people get in contact with you and help support, you know, your efforts?
Okay. Well, they can go over to my website. It's coachingbyKamisha.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Kimesha Coleman. Just type in my name. I'm everywhere. I do have a lot of different coaching practices. I have a couple of self-help books that I offer to people. So, hey, look me up. Google me.
I know that's right. Well, I appreciate you coming on so much. Thank you for sharing, you know, your story and your words of wisdom. I definitely got a couple of things that I put in my toolkit today.
I saw you right.
All right. Well, are there any last words of wisdom and encouragement you want to share?
What do I say? Okay. Nothing will change until you decide to change it. So for the people who are feeling stuck, nothing will change until you decide to change it. It's real simple. That's it.
Indeed. All right. Well, look, to all you Guards Down fans out there, this is Greg and Kamisha telling you to stay safe, stay focused, and stay engaged. We're out.
You've been listening to Guards Down with Greg Washington. PTSD and complicated grief are very real. About 8 out of every 100 people will have PTSD at some point in their lives. About 20 to 54% of people with complicated grief will simultaneously suffer from major depressive disorder. And that's why shows like this are hugely important. Raising awareness for PTSD and complicated grief. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us at guardsdown.com. We are iron.org. On Facebook at Guards Down. And find us on YouTube and Instagram.